Welcome back to the Secure Cyber Connect podcast. We're live here today at the National Cybersecurity Show, and we're joined by Liz. Can you give our audience a high-level overview of who you are and what's brought you here today?
Yeah, sure. So Liz Murray, Chief of Staff of the SASIG, 21 years as a military in the military before I left and joined Cybersecurity and HSBC. Learned a heap in each of the enterprise organisations I've worked in. Also worked for a cyber vendor before this fantastic opportunity came up to be Chief of Staff with the SASIG, which is just the nicest network of people and a great job to be able to really help organisations be more secure because they're able to talk about the problems within our environment. Yeah.
Well, that's brilliant. And of course, I've been following SASIG for many years now. We spoke with Martin earlier today, had a fantastic conversation there. Want to commend you and the team. 1000th webinar coming up in the next couple of weeks, 22 years. Trading as a community, enabling organisations, driving growth, encouraging cross-sector collaboration. Certainly something that resonates with me and our community, what we're building. But tell me a little bit more about your earlier career. What motivated you to move into cybersecurity? Because you're moving out of the forces. There's physical security in that respect. Was it an easy transition for you, or was it a challenge?
It was one of those weird things, actually. I'd actually said not cybersecurity and not a bank. And then as part of my resettlement, you start to look at things that interest you. And I'd had this event, it was an internship event at one of the, at HSBC. And I went along going, I don't want an internship, I want a job. And I was chatting about risk and control to the lady who then became my boss. It was a sea of dark grey suits, and it was very male in that room in Canary Wharf. And Paula stood out. She's a pocket rocket. She won't mind me saying that. Bright pink hair, bright pink dress, and just bags of personality, and so divorced from what my view of the bank was, actually, that I went, oh, this is interesting. And we were talking about that dynamic assessment of risk within the military environment and the fact that we were all making risk assessments without really realising that was what we were doing it from a position of knowledge and understanding the controls that were in place to keep things safe. And actually that translates really well into a civilian environment. Fast forward, actually, it's far more complex, of course, when you come into the environment, understanding the lines of defence and how that works within the financial sector. But the place where I really landed well was security culture and awareness, because all the things that I was doing naturally, checking that I wasn't getting tailgated, making sure my passwords were sorted, checking where the data was, who'd got control, who was allowed access to the documents, data classification, all of the things that we were just doing day to day just translated so well into a civilian environment, and that was where I flew. And that whole kind of education and the analogies that you have to put in place to explain really complex things quite simply is something that I've always done anyway, just for myself. I spent a period of time working with some quite complex weapon systems, and to understand them, I had to turn them from that whole really deeply technical thing into something quite creative, so that I could then go, oh, now I understand how that works. And actually that was all I was doing for other people, that storytelling aspect.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of security professionals unfortunately fall down at the moment. The ability to tell the stories, take someone on a journey with them. We certainly, as a community, we emphasise those softer skills and the ability to listen and learn, to be able to influence, not manipulate, but influence, and it needs to be something that's going to resonate with people. I find personally, if you talk about children, next generation, I would say 7 out of 10 people are either a parent, auntie, uncle, a sibling. We've always got that vested interest or concern around the next generation. But when you flip it on the other side, we've all got grandparents, or we've all had grandparents, so it's about protecting them. The stories that I tell, we try to aim it around that. It's not going to satisfy everyone, but you're going to get that majority.
It's so key. You speak about parents. My parents are both 83. They do really what makes them sound absolutely decrepit, and they're not. They're absolutely brilliant. But the AI in tooling moves faster than they can think, because they don't understand what it's doing, because it's not part of their environment growing up. They're not being educated with it. It's something they've had to learn to use. And they'll be doing something online, and they'll have agreed to something. They've no idea what they've agreed to. It's all come along. Actually, there's a real argument there for being able to slow AI down. so that it can be helpful and not harmful, and people then have that agency to have made a decision that they wanted to make rather than one they've been forced into. And that's exactly the same for children. It's helping them understand the harm that could happen, but giving them that ability to choose and the knowledge that they need to be able to choose. And that's the thing, is how do you get that information across to them so that they can operate safely? It, for me, is very much like crossing the road. See, I'll come back to a really basic example. When the Tufty Club, this really ages me, my goodness. So Tufty Club and the Green Cross Code Man, they came in, they were a step up from, it was called curb crossing drill, very early doors, post the Second World War, far more traffic on the roads. If we look at traffic as being the internet, loads of traffic on the road, people crossing the road getting totaled by a car because they weren't looking out for them. Because previously stuff had stopped, bicycles had stopped, there weren't that many cars on the road, and all of a sudden these hulking great beasts were killing children. So curb crossing drill, brilliant, then stop, look, listen. Actually, if you can give that knowledge of the environment to someone and give them that ability to stop, take a really sensible pause and consider what it is they're being asked to do, then you start to protect. But you can't just stop people from using something to do that. You have to give them the education they need so that they understand why and how to use it effectively.
Certainly, believe that's some great points there. And you mentioned obviously earlier in your career, and there was a woman in the room. You were perhaps one of three at that time. How important is it for female leaders to be present in these rooms so that the next generation can see them? Do you think that was a vital part of you actually entering the industry because you've seen someone in the shoes that you can take it up yourself?
Do you know what? I'm going to say no, but the thing is, so that wasn't a vital reason I went to. Paula and I just got on. She could have been a bloke and we'd have got on. That's the reality. But when you look at it, if you are not in an organisation or in a sector representing society, then you're just not going to win. And you can't pretend that 50% of the organisation can't be female. You can't suggest that society isn't at least, I think we're 51% female in the UK. And if everything is designed and created by one part of the sector, then it's never going to resonate and work for the other, and you're going to end up with bias in AI, bias that doesn't help protect, and the unintended consequence there is that you're then factoring half of the population out. So you've got to have women in the room, you've got to have that perception, but equally it needs diversity across other things as well. It's not enough that it is only for people who are deemed neurotypical. I have a niece who's neurodiverse. Now I would say she's basically like a Mac computer operating in an Android world. So you need to have that view on it as well. So it's about diversity across all of it. Definitely, we need more female representation in the leadership level, but some of that's going to come from, that has to come not just within cyber, that has to come organisationally. Moreover, there are very few CEOs across enterprise organisations who are female, very few. And until that representation changes, it's not going to trickle its way down. It was something I was chatting about the other week. But what I see is women get to a certain level and then branch out to become sole operators and do brilliantly at it because they're able to influence in a soft way. But it would be so much better if they were there visible at the top.
Yeah, most definitely. And as an industry, if you could change one thing, magic wand now, get rid of it, send it to room 404, what would that be?
Within the cybersecurity industry as a whole? I think the thing that I would want to get rid of, or I would want CEOs to truly factor cyber into everything that they do. So I think it's maybe not getting rid of something, I think it's about actually expanding something. I would like to get rid of the view that cyber is something that is an annoyance, and I would like to promote the view that it's just the way we live, and to live safely you have to understand it at the level that you operate at.
That's fantastic. And in terms of your peers, obviously I've been having conversations throughout the day, and we've got certainly an exciting couple of days ahead of us. But what are one of the key frustrations and challenges that you're hearing from your peers across the industry at the moment, and what can we do to address that?
It's funny, third-party security is always the one. Supply chain security is massive, as always. Getting the message to the board and getting the buy-in, getting the funding, actually. Even in a world that's seen some really mega cyber attacks recently, getting funding is difficult because business priorities, especially at the moment where geopolitical events are having an influence on the markets, getting funding to do something that protects versus something that builds business and revenue is always going to be tricky. So those frictions are the ones that we've kind of heard about. Third-party supply chain, as I say, always going to be a tricky one to get hold of. But I was chatting with I chair the regional steering committee of the Northeast Cyber Resilience Centre, which is a police-led organisation, trying to get hold of small and micro enterprises to help them secure their own IT and their own cyber environment, so that when they're supplying, they're not causing a bigger risk. It's such a huge area, and I think I've spoken with 4 or 5 people today who are all grappling with exactly the same thing: as to how do you do it? How do you do a due diligence within that area that means something tomorrow and the day after? It isn't just written and answered for today. So that's where we are at the moment. That's in terms of things, yeah.
And in terms of community SASIC itself, obviously I've been watching the webinars for some time, see you guys and girls at events across the globe. You certainly got a global community. Why is that so important in this day and age? Why is community, face-to-face time, knowledge sharing, why is that fundamentally important, especially with AI?
Yeah, I think the AI piece is huge here. We were having a discussion earlier on about what makes CISOs buy, and they said, "Mike, cold calling. We want people to respond to emails." So if you can't guarantee that's a person on the end of the phone because their voice has been AI cloned in 8 seconds and is now being managed by somebody nefarious, and you can't guarantee the emails come from somebody legitimate, the only way you're going to get around that is actually by coming back to something old school and speaking to people in person. And I think the community, certainly the SASIC community, the benefit of being able to do it in with Chatham House rules is you get to have a conversation where you're able to share some detail and ask for a solution for a problem and get some real best practice. And even if you don't take it all on board, at least it allows you to go away and have an informed conversation with the people that you work with to say, we could solve this problem like this. Have we thought about doing it in that manner? Which might not ever have come up before, because you can't know everything within one organisation, even if you think you do.
I think the people that say they do know everything, those are the ones to avoid, especially from a vendor standpoint as well.
100%, but also internally, if someone's only ever going to give you their view and their state of the nation, then and you can't get anything different in, then you're not going to have a really protective environment. You've got to have a community feel within an organisation whereby the trust is there, so that even the most junior person can turn around and go, this could be a really great idea, and that's listened to, and it's listened to because they happen to know what they're talking about in their area, not just because of the level they're at isn't the same level as you. It's something that I did bring from the military is every person in the room has a part to play in keeping an organisation safe. When I was serving, it was very much about keeping an aircraft in the sky.
We're leaders, aren't we?
Yeah, exactly.
I think
And we lead ourselves. We lead ourselves as human beings, and people lead really complex lives at home, and then come into an organisation and get treated because of a level they're at that they don't have knowledge that's there. And that's such a dangerous thing to do in any organisation. And I think giving people that agency to talk and have an opinion is really key.
No, it certainly is. And we talk about well-being, mental resilience, work-life balance. It's a myth, I believe. Especially when you're in it. Cybersecurity is an industry that pulls you in. You're passionate about your role. You earn enough hours in a day, but you ultimately do need things that anchor us. So you were military in the past. What did you use before, and what's your anchor at the moment?
We were speaking before this moment about my dogs, but also getting out and running in the fresh air and getting away from the tech, actually. I make it a real key thing. I'm holding a pair of earpods here. That's not great, is it? I make it a really key thing that when I go out running, I don't have music on. I take notice of what's around me, and it is get away from the tech, take that time and be really hard over on yourself to not just go onto the phone every 5 minutes to do something. My dogs, thankfully, take a lot of looking after. I gave you that lovely analogy earlier. I think it's a lovely analogy. My dogs are like agentic AI bots. So in that, if I give them or agentic AI agents, if you give them really specific parameters in which to operate, they're safe. They will do what you ask. The moment you give them a slight piece of freedom, or you're not quite specific enough on what you're giving them, off they go on their own. They're self-employed, and then getting them back takes 3 or 4 weeks. So you have to have that concentration on them. So it's a little bit like being mindful the whole time you're there, going, what are these two independent of thinking spaniels doing? That I have to keep my mind on them, and so that's very much part of what I do. Getting out and about in the fresh air, running with the dogs, and being with the dogs, and then singing. I sing, and I love it. And
it's like a release of emotion when you're singing. It does for me personally. I'm a terrible singer. But...
you can get it all out there, can't you? I was sitting on the motor on the way in, and there was a Guns N' Roses mega mix or something on the radio, and like, this is good, because at the moment I'm sitting in a queue, looking left and right, and we're just seeing if anybody else is noticing the fact that I am bellowing "Sweet Child of Mine" out at a rate of knots, Yeah.
Well, like this up, some audience, considering cross-training, redeploying. They may be sat within a bank at the moment, but they've got an interest in cybersecurity, and we all got that imposter syndrome, that doubt. There's always that voice in the back of our head saying, we're not good enough, I don't have all the requirements, the job title looks vague. But can you give us an idea of what some of the career pathways look like in cybersecurity, and is it really a rewarding industry? What are the harsh realities?
So, I mean, first of all, is it rewarding? Yes, it is, because you are having a tangible effect. Can it be all-consuming? Yeah, it can absolutely be all-consuming, especially you feel a real ownership. So if there's a cyber incident, it's like, what should have been done? Did we miss something? What is it that's been missed that's made this happen? And oh my goodness, was there anything I could do about it? So that you have that feeling of ownership. That said, in terms of pathways, they are so wide. We were talking about this the other week. You talk about cybersecurity, and everybody thinks about it as being this deeply technical, only deeply technical domain. And yeah, that's one part of it. Well, you have your SOC, your Security Operations Centre, who are doing fantastic work always, protecting the organisation. You've got your people who are doing DevSecOps, they're developing security tooling and making sure that works. They're also making sure that anything that's brought in protects the organisation. So they're looking and making sure that they're using, tooling like Wiz or whatever that's going to check for vulnerabilities. But then around that, you have there's HR. You need to employ people who know what they're talking about. You have risk and control. You need people who understand how to assess risk. If you're working in financial services in risk and fraud, it's likely that you can come across into cybersecurity, and there's a nice transition. You need project managers in cybersecurity. Doesn't matter actually if you don't have deep cyber knowledge, you will learn that bit, but the project management piece is important and how that happens. What else can we look at? Security culture and awareness. If you are an education specialist who's used to passing complex messages, cybersecurity is a place you could find yourself, because it's very much tapped into the psychology of people, and cyber attacks tap into the psychology of people over and above everything else. So all of those things have a career path within cybersecurity, and it's not just stuck with the deep technology. There's that wraparound side of it as well.
Oh, that's brilliant. Appreciate you sharing. And in terms of you, Sasik, what's next for you and the team?
We are building out some fantastic events. We have wonderful in-person events where our membership come along, they speak, they share problems, they share solutions, and we have really deeply connecting conversations with people, and you really feel at home in the community, which is fab. So we've got an emerging technologies session coming up relatively shortly, a CISO summit. Big SASIG is coming up in September, which is the one opportunity our vendors get to sell. We don't let them sell the rest of the time. They can come and thought lead and chat, but they're not allowed to sell to the community. And then actually, one thing I'm developing within it are streams that we can take, we can kind of ripple through, and looking at how we diversify within cybersecurity, how we make it easy for Gen Z to access jobs, because they don't know that imposter syndrome you're talking about. They don't know that they've got a skill set that's easily transferable until you help them understand. Similarly, how do we get people into work experience in that? We've started looking at that. And then how do we make sure that we don't end up with glass ceilings at the top of functional areas? So looking at how we do that from a job progression perspective. that's one of the streams we're developing there, and that diversity of thought. So we're talking about neurodiversity, neurotypical neurotypical jobs. We want to have that accessibility to make sure that we are diversifying within cyber. And then just a heap of really brilliant events looking at operational technology and how to protect that is coming later on in the year. We've got some hugely brilliant events coming up, as always.
Like it.
And I'm just looking forward to the
And
conversations.
who are these events open to? Who can become a member of SASIC?
If you work in the cyber function of any large organisation or a small organisation that is not a cyber vendor or consultant, you can join us as a member for free. And it's brilliant. It's a fabulous community. It's a very friendly community, which is awesome. And then if you're a vendor in the cyber area, you can become a supporter, which gets you access to the community. You get to come to all of our networking events, but there's a charge associated with that, because actually what you're getting is probably the equivalent of this is a great event here today, but you get the equivalent of this and the equivalent of the number of people coming past probably in the one space, and you get to build those relationships over time, which then gets you that whole renewals and retention side of the sales. So it's a benefit for both, really. And you get to talk about the innovations that you have too, and similarly you get to understand what the rest of the community is struggling with. So the community gets to go, do you know what, we're having a real issue with this in the organisation, and someone says, well, if we treat this, that could actually solve that problem. So you get that whole problem solving piece as well.
Is the access, like you said, to those brilliant minds, diverse perspectives, and more importantly, you don't have to go through things yourself. You don't need to fall over and scrape your knee if someone to your left's already done it and said, look, watch out for that pothole.
Exactly that, and we've had some brilliant case studies shared. It's, people are very open with the case studies they share, and how they did it, what poles they fell down, and how they got back around it, and what they've learned. And there are just some amazing minds in the SASIC community. I sit in awe. But people come out and stuff and go, that's really clever, they're way smarter than I am. But it's nice to be able to facilitate that.
I always encourage people to go in rooms that you're not the smartest person. It's about learning, growing together with individuals. But look, as we wrap up the session, we'd love to have you back in the future, yourself and Marion. Hopefully attending some of your future events. And to our audience, community, we certainly encourage you to sign up to SASIC, connect with Liz and the team over there. And any final thoughts you'd like to share with audience?
No, just definitely come and join us, and it's been an absolute pleasure to be chatting to you. Thank you so much.
Welcome back to the Secure Cyber Connect podcast. This afternoon we're in Birmingham at the National Cybersecurity Show, and we're rejoined by Mike. Mike, how's you doing? How are you finding things?
Well, great. Busy day today. We've had, in fact, this is the first time I've sat down, and here I am. No, it's been a really busy day for us, right from the offset. Right, the second I came in at 9 o'clock this morning, got everything set up. And we've had wave after wave of individuals coming along, having a chat about what we do as a charity, and we've been desperately trying to sell what we make with the scrap that we get from our clients. So we turn it into jewellery, and people have been coming along, interested in it, buying off of us, and it all goes back to the charity. So it's been a great day. Talking about digital inclusion, selling jewellery. Where else can you
that's
ask
brilliant. Obviously, I know we had a conversation on one of our previous episodes to an audience perhaps that are tuning in that don't know who you are, your mission, your purpose.
Yeah.
Enlighten those that are new to the channel, and then let's move on to what this is.
No, I appreciate it, yes. So at our core, we are a digital inclusion organisation. So we're a non-profit, we're a charity and a CIC, a community interest company. We started off as a charity, and the whole goal was to try and make sure that kids that didn't have access to technology get access to technology. Through our travels, we've realised what we need to do was to take on the IT asset disposal industry. So we set up the CIC, Everyone Digital now exists. We are 4 years into that, and we haven't looked back. We receive kit now from companies all across the country. We've got huge enterprise companies. Recently we took on the Trainline, the app that you get to get your train. Excellent company. Lots of law firms. Microsoft started giving us gear as well. So it is great. So we wipe all this stuff. We provide the proof certificates. We do all that work that the profit-making companies perform. But the best thing about us is that from a social environmental social governance standpoint, there's a lot of metrics that come their way as a partner. So our partners now can provide data in regards to environmental impact. They can provide metrics in regards to social impact, and they follow our story and invest in our future. So as an organisation, we're growing and growing. We've started online safety. We've started outreach projects, so we go into the community now and teach people how to use computers. And we utilise the scrap metal to create jewellery, but we get youngsters to get involved in the production of it all. So it's about training youngsters. We bring in youngsters to learn how to do IT asset disposal. They break open the computers to try and fix some of them. They help us with the whole refurbishment process. But they also, in regards to scrap, help us make stuff out of what is left. So they're using CNC machines, press machines, they're using epoxy resin, and just they're getting used to work. They're getting used to turning up on time and doing certain projects. It's been great.
That sounds fascinating. Obviously, I've been following the organisation for quite some time.
Really appreciate
Commending all the work that you guys and girls are doing. You're always showing up. You're there. You're front and centre. You're engaging. I know you put in a lot of hours travelling as well. What do you want to say to people that are looking here today and thinking they want to do more? How can they do more?
There's an analogy I've been using. We're seeing houses being built all over the place at the moment, and it really does get to a lot of people. The issue is the houses get built, and there's no infrastructure to support the actual building of those houses. Well, in a very similar guise, we've got this digital age. We've got kids and schools that have to get involved in digital software. They have to get computers, but the infrastructure doesn't exist. So it's organisations like us working with corporates like you that are going to solve this problem. Together, we actually can close the digital divide. And it's a great little story to tell, and hopefully everyone gets involved.
Most definitely. Tell us a little bit more about these cufflinks, necklaces.
My favourites are the cufflinks. So basically, we cut circles and squares out of old equipment that we get out of a laptop.
So our audience.
So we've got different colours: blue, gold, silver, bronze, and different coloured boards. And we are using epoxy resin. We create these beautiful cufflinks. We're making badges. We've got some badges here. We've got some chains and necklaces made out of computer parts. We've started making clocks. Recently, we took the keyboard keys off of a keyboard, and we're gluing them to the side of pen pots. So we should have those at the next exhibition, so if you're there, you're more than welcome to grab one.
And look, the young adults, the teenagers, the ones that are actually contributing their time to support you in your mission, how does this make them feel? What does this do for them in terms of their career trajectories?
Yeah, well, another problem to be solved is work experience. So there's many kids out there now getting excellent grades and coming out of university or coming out of education without any jobs. And the one of the factors, or the major factor, is that they've got no experience. So we're trying to create a working environment, turn up on time, get your work done, stop looking at your phone, and providing the experiences where they're using different types of machinery, they're learning about health and safety, they're using computer software they've not used before. And the idea is that we're trying to create these anecdotal stories and get them to solve problems that when they sit in an interview, they're not just talking about their exams and the grades they've got these stories to tell and these things that they've overcome. So it's going to help, I believe, get these youngsters into work. Again, it's a multifaceted project. Not only are we supporting people on the digital divide, but everyone in between. I think it's one of those projects where everybody wins, from our corporate partners to the local councils, to schools, to the kids that get work experience, to the individuals that don't know what they're good at yet. We want to get these kits out to kids that don't know they're the next IT service desk individual or graphic designer. They don't know it yet because they've never had access to a computer. So between us, we can do all of this.
No, that's brilliant, and it is one of the challenges that we see in the industry. You've got brilliant minds going for education, getting certification, spending tens of thousands of pounds on boot camps, but the barrier in it is stopping them. It's that practical hands-on experience, that lived experience, the ability to give examples of the challenges that they've overcome, and more importantly, the impact of those challenges they've overcome. So there's certainly more of a need from what you guys and girls are doing. I certainly urge more of the industry to take on this mission. Reach out to Mike and the team, help them, help us.
Yeah, and listen, we meet up all the time. We're at all the exhibitions. Always appreciate your support. You work really hard. You travel all over the country as well. So this man is working hard for you as well. So really appreciate the time.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, from all of us at Secure Cyber Connect, we're going to have Mike back in the future on a panel discussion. I've got something planned that I'm going to discuss with him another day. But make sure you hit that like button and be sure to reach out to the team at Every Child Online.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Cheers. Thank you. Ciao.
Welcome back to Secure Cyber Connect podcast. We're here live from the National Cybersecurity Show in Birmingham. Today we're joined by Dolores from Dolores, do you want to give us a high-level overview of who you are and what's you doing here today?
Oh, thank you so much, Warren. Yes, well, actually, we're very excited to be here, and I'm representing Xygeni, which is an AppSec security platform. Now, it's a bit of a crazy idea that we actually attended the event because we're seeing that everybody here is in cybersecurity and everything like that. Now, I've been actually personally in the IT industry for over 40 years. So I've sort of like seen all the changes that's been developing through all this time. You can imagine a lot. But in the past couple of years, the changes have been very radical, where AI has actually revolutionized everything that's going on in our industry. And we're seeing that it's been accelerating really, really fast. And our main concern is making sure that security starts right from the roots of everybody's company, so everybody's concern, which is the applications itself.
And earlier in your journey, why did you get into cyber, and why have you stuck around for so long?
That's a good question. I've actually never asked myself that because I'm not an IT person. I think why I got into cyber, into IT, mainly because it was something new. I remember implementing internet in Seagate when I was there originally. So it was really crazy, and I like new adventures, everything that's new, exciting. I love seeing how the human race evolves with machinery and the IT world and everything like that. And it's been a crazy journey.
I can imagine. And very briefly, could you perhaps share with us something that you're proud about within that journey, and perhaps a mistake and a lesson you learned along the way?
Okay, a mistake that I made was I made a break from this journey, okay? Being from a female point of view, that sort of like stopped me in the journey quite a while. And when I jumped right back into it, it was a totally different world. And I had to start from scratch. So I had to relearn everything that I thought I knew. But it was a good experience, all right? So I turned something that was a bit of a challenge into an exciting new experience.
No, that's brilliant. And we spoke about this off-cam earlier today, and something that really resonated with me, the fact that you bring diverse force and real-life experience. Tell us more about that. Tell us about the different companies that you've lived in, and how that's enabled you to succeed.
Well, I think at the end of the day, when you look back in your life, you see that everything's sort of like a break. Let's analyze it and try to get to the solution.
No, that's fascinating. And look, if you had a magic wand today, you can change anything about the industry, that maybe take something away or add it to the industry. What would that be, if you don't mind me asking?
Take away. I wouldn't take away. I wish I could take away AI. Just get
it's a five-year reset.
But that's not possible. Okay, so we can't do that. So what I would take away is I would take away the fear that everybody's living with.
The fear.
Okay, the fear. Okay. This anxiety everybody's dealing with at the moment. Just take that away.
Can you tell me a bit more about the business, some of the challenges that you're helping organizations to address, and what that impact looks like?
Okay, so like I said before, all our customers, with the challenges that I'm hearing back from everybody is that the attacks, these hackers, these attacks, there's so much noise. I don't know how to manage this correctly. I want my team to focus on what's important and not overwhelm them with so many tasks that already are so overwhelmed. Like I said, let's take a step back. Try to filter and find a solution that fits into your environment. Try and listen to even if it's a newcomer onto the game, onto the table, that could bring something that's much more valuable to you, that will actually be able to fix all this anxiety that you're feeling, okay? So open up those doors so that new information can come in and you'll be able to evaluate the situation much better.
That's some brilliant points, And is there any advice and guidance that you could perhaps give to women that are tuning in today that are considering a career in tech or cybersecurity? Perhaps they're within an organization, they've got influence, confidence, the ability to listen, learn and influence, but there have been barriers put in front of them. What advice would you give to them?
I love this question. See, put it this way, I started in the IT as a woman. There was no one. There were actually no women around. Now there's more, but we need to get in there because we bring a lot of knowledge we see things differently, okay? And we've got to have the confidence that what we bring into this environment has a lot of value, okay? And we're strong. We have a voice and we need to make it heard.
No, that's brilliant. Well, look, really enjoyed today's conversation. Love to have you and the team back at some point in the near future for a panel discussion.
Definitely.
For our audience, if they want to hear more from you and the organisation, what's the best way for them to reach out to you and the team?
Okay, just go into our webpage. It's Xygeni, okay? Or you can call it Xygeni, however you want to pronounce it, but it's right there. Or here on my t-shirt. Go to our webpage and just put contact us, and we will definitely get in contact with you. If not me personally, somebody from my team. And we always
No, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And to our audience, we were joined by your CTO a few months back.
Yes.
About 9 months ago now, so certainly check out that episode. I'll leave some links to that in the show notes. And
Definitely.
for all of us at Secure, stay secure.
Yes, stay secure. Thank you.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Secure Cyberconnect podcast. We're here in Birmingham National Cybersecurity Show. Today I'm joined by Michael. Michael, could you give the audience a high-level overview of who you are and what you're doing here today?
Sure, absolutely. So, name's Michael Copper. I work for Heimdall Security. Why am I here today? To talk to people about how potentially we can help them with their security challenges, of which there are many and growing in this world of AI and technological advance. Yeah.
And before we get into some of those challenges itself, in terms of what you guys and girls are doing to address those, tell us a little bit more about your career history. What got you into cyber and how you're faring in the industry.
Yeah, good question. So I actually started off. I was doing event sales for many years. It was a very different kind of sale. Very much quite fast-paced. People come into events and try. We used to have like huge names, Coca-Cola and Adidas, and they'd be speaking at these events. And then COVID happened. Events quite difficult to put on because obviously everyone was at home, and then to be honest the whole sales team left that company, and then a friend of mine happened to get a job in cyber, so it just happened chance really. I knew the industry was going to be booming, so it's an attractive industry to work in. Got a job at Heimdall obviously, and it's just it's not something I ever envisioned myself working in, but now I'm in it. It's one of those industries, like I say, that's going to be around and super important moving forward. So, yeah, here to stay, I think.
And what does a typical career pathway look like for those that perhaps aren't coming from a development or a technical background, that want to get in a sales or account management route? What does that look like in terms of grading? What skills are needed? And what's the earning potential?
Good question. So I think what skills are needed: empathy. To be able to understand someone else's world is the key to sales, and being empathetic and having a genuine desire to help and solve their challenges. Everyone's so stressed. Their lives are stressful for different reasons, and their work is stressful. If you can understand that, you don't have to be technical. I'm not technical. I know the industry now. I've worked in it, half a decade, so I know their challenges. But if you can understand their world and really have a desire to help them with their challenges, you'll get to the core of that. And honesty as well, and authenticity. If you know that you're not the right solution, just say that, because you'll waste everyone's time, including your own, And you want customers that love your product, so don't sell them the wrong product, essentially. In terms of earning potential, it's an old adage in sales, but you get out what you put in. So if you work the hours, there will be some long days, There will be times where you're not 9 to 5ing and you're working late into the night and doing the admin. But you can earn really, really handsomely because of that, And again, it comes from a place where everyone wins. You help someone with their challenges. I always said when I was cold calling, if I can help this person, they better be bloody delighted that I've called them in the first place, and that's the mindset, If I
It's imagine a stranger ringing out of you and saying, "Look, I can help you."
Yeah.
Genuinely helping you.
Yeah, and if you can, great, and if you can't, no harm, no foul, you move on. But that's it. You can earn good money. They save a load of time or stress. Everyone wins,
In terms of career pathways, within the Heimdall, for instance, do people come in at the SDR, sales development rep stage, then account exec? How does it work?
Yeah, so I actually headed up our SDR team for a while. I'm a bit of a psychopath, like I say. I like cold calling, so I like to impart that onto other people. We have some people coming in the SDR stage and kind of building their way up, but we do have some people just coming in at that account executive stage who have a bit more experience in their career. So it does completely depend, but I'd say typically, yeah, that's what you're looking at, SDR moving up to account executive, and then management. But sometimes, I don't know, management's a different skill set, right? So I think that,
it's not for everyone.
It's not.
There's a place and there's a time we need individual contributors, we need leaders.
Exactly.
You don't necessarily have to fit the mold in that respect.
Exactly. I think a lot of companies, someone will be good at their job and then they'll be all right. Now they better manage. But I managed for a while and I enjoyed it, but actually I got a bit impatient in it. I was like, I think I just want to do it all myself now, and not rely on others. And so maybe I'll go back to it one day, but yeah, I'm very happy doing individual contributing right now, but yeah.
That's great. And tell us a little bit more about the vertical that you're focused on. What industry segment is that and why is it important?
Yeah, so I work in education primarily. I work across the board, but primarily my time is spent in education because there's 30,000 schools in the UK and I don't have time to do much else, to be honest. And the challenges are vast for them. They're always a tiny team, one or two people managing sometimes literally thousands of endpoints, thousands of devices and users. The ratio is insane, or the amount that they have to cover and help protect. Also, they're in charge of anything with a plug. So kids forgetting passwords, printers, school plays, anything that is slightly technical comes under their jurisdiction. And they do not have the time, often the skill set, to be able to be everywhere at once, protect everything. And the security is so vast these days. It's not just AV, but it's your computers, it's who's logging in, it's your cloud systems, it's your network.
IoT as well.
IoT,
physical
AI,
systems.
exactly, it's all of it. And the standards are getting harder. So they're right, protect all that, we'll scrutinise you more, we won't give you the budget to do so, or the resource to do so. You've got to do it and do everything else on this, school budget, and it's impossible. Also, they can only do it 9 to 5. Then they'll go home and then they'll worry about it because they'll be out with their family. They'll be like, what if I come in on Monday and there's an attack? So it's really, really stressful. So it's genuinely nice helping schools because they are in such a tough position. The amount of schools I helped over Christmas who were just like, I just couldn't stop thinking about security. You don't want to be thinking about security when you're home. Like, do you know what I mean? You want to enjoy your Christmas, but they weren't. So it is genuinely nice helping these people to have more peace of mind, have more time back. I say more time back, there'll be other things to fill their time. But yeah, anything we can do to help. But yeah, there's loads of challenges that are getting more and more difficult for schools at the moment.
No, that's brilliant. And obviously I've been following the helm now for quite some time, Matt. Freddie and Matt on the podcast a few weeks back, supporting NHS, for instance.
Yeah.
So in terms of what you're seeing right now, conversations you're having, what are some of those other industry-wide challenges that perhaps need more attention, or frustrations from leaders that you've been having conversations with?
Yeah.
What does that look like? What's the inside scoop?
I think one of the things is an age-old problem is siloed departments, right? Cyber, IT and cyber are seen as some data in a server somewhere.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're the digital heartbeat of every single company nowadays. You've got IT is like running water. If it breaks, no one cares unless it breaks, right? IT, you deal with that. It's an IT issue. No, it's an organizational-wide issue. But you're trying to get senior leadership, governors, board of directors to understand something that they are not adept to understanding about, technical issues. They see it as, just a technical issue and they won't know the wording, the acronyms, etc. IT can sometimes struggle to relay that back. Why do we need this as an organization? Why are we spending our money in? We don't see the ROI.
Yeah.
The only ROI we see is that, we haven't been attacked, so we're all right, aren't we? No, actually, we could get attacked here's the risk. So a big part of my job is trying to help people translate. I say I'm a part-time therapist, part-time translator in my job.
I love that.
I try and help people. I listen to the problems. I try and help them translate what we actually do, because it's such a saturated market, but then also upward to SLT. Why is this actually really, really important as an organization, especially with the advent and the fast-moving AI, the amount of risk now. We're always going to be one step behind the bad guys, but it's just getting worse and worse and worse, so it's getting tougher to stay up. So yeah, I'd say that.
And to our audience that perhaps tuned in, it may be, maybe teachers, maybe parents, they want to secure, obviously, the public sector domain in and around schools, colleges, universities, empowering the next generation. So in that respect, how can you help them? What sort of service offerings you have, and where do you think your strengths lie within the educational space in particular?
Yeah, good question. So for us, one of the big challenges when I talk to IT is like, how does this affect the wider school? And they're like, well, I'm not too sure actually, but it will do. Your parents will be stressed. If you have like private schools where you have parents who are pretty affluent, and then they could lose their money. With state schools, there'll be lots of data. With special needs schools, are really, really sensitive data. Parents are going to worry about that. The headmaster's going to worry about that. The governors, etc. So what do? We give them more peace of mind. We reduce that risk. We give them such a wide suite of security tools that they can replace certain different kind of pockets and different legacy of tools, put it all in one place, have everything together. That, like I said, gives IT time back, but also reduces the risk huge amounts from the main kind of attack vectors. And by doing that, they can not only reduce their risk, but they can improve that upward. They can show them. Because nowadays it's not enough just to do, you have to show it as well.
Yeah, you want to be able to measure, justify,
Exactly.
so you can get more budget.
Yeah, exactly. You can get more budget back. You get more budget for the projects, but also because we can help them commercially, because everything's all together in one place, they're saving some money, and hopefully they can use that on other projects as well, And yeah, I think it's assurance, it's time back, it's peace of mind at the end of the day. That's it.
No, that's brilliant. And look, we're at the National Cybersecurity Show here in Birmingham. Why are events such as this so important for the industry? Not just vendors, but end users.
I think there's a serendipity about meeting people in person that you don't get over the phone, right? And then you'll meet people, you'll have a conversation, you kind of get a feel for each other as well. You probably could build trust quicker as well, rather than some random person over the phone. We can't do this every day because we just don't have the time, and you have to do Teams meetings, etc. But these are genuine conversations that you have that you're just not going to get over a 2D screen. And I think also when you start to see the same people at shows, they go, okay, yeah, I know you. They might not talk to you the first time or the second time, but actually when they see, okay, I've seen you at a few shows now, you must be doing something right. Someone said to us at a different show, InfoSec, they were like, why... yeah, I've seen you got a pretty big stand this year. Must be doing pretty well. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, sure. But yeah, I think it is important just to get your face out there as well, especially in cybersecurity, because it is about trust.
Yeah. So if you keep showing up, you can build that trust as being consistent.
Showing
not
up
just
is
showing
a
up
good
for a
term.
year.
Yeah,
you've got to be able to win it for a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly a lifelong industry, isn't it?
Indeed, showing up. I think that's a great way of summarising it. It's just showing up, being consistent.
And look, love to have you back in a future discussion. One thing we like to talk about quite a lot, and very briefly, I'm just curious to get your perspective as someone that comes from the revenue generating side of the business. You work as a business partner, but of course, you've got targets, you've got responsibility from the customers and clients that you work with. When you are under those times of pressure, how do you find balance and maintain your mental well-being?
That's such a good question. So I was having this conversation with someone the other day. I honestly think if you always just chase the money, you'll end up shooting yourself in the foot, because those opportunities will come and go. If you genuinely work on your craft...
Tell the camera, tell these people, come a bit closer, come on.
Yeah.
Let's tell these other salespeople.
Yeah. If you chase the money all the time, opportunities will come and go. And I think you'll end up just cornering yourself a little bit. But if you work hard at being the best at your craft, opportunities will come and the money will come secondary, because you are the best at what you can do. And like I said, that empathy and that helping people, if that is your focus, everything else will come. And if you dedicate yourself to your craft and being the best you can, yeah, you will learn well.
Well, that's brilliant. And you'll be around like-minded individuals that are mission focused.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I love working with salespeople who are they love everything around it. They love the psychology of it. They love they want to learn. They always send each other videos online and stuff, And you want to be better and better. You get like little tips and tricks. However, if you just kind of look for the lower hanging fruit, you'll always just be doing that.
Yeah, chasing ambulances.
Yeah.
You get sore feet.
Yeah, exactly, very much so. And it's short term. It's short term. Be the best at your craft, and that's long term.
No, that's brilliant. Well,
Yeah.
Mike, really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah,
Like I
thank
said,
you.
love to have you back with a panel discussion in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to.
To our audience, if they want to stay connected with you beyond the podcast, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
I'd say LinkedIn is probably the best way to reach out. Michael Coffer on LinkedIn, Heimdall Security. Yeah, find
That's
me there.
brilliant. And to our audience, we're going to leave some details in the show notes. I know Heimdall got some exciting things coming up in the next couple of weeks, so we'll leave some links to that as well. Thank you, Mike.
Of course. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.